changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more, no more complaining. People, their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more, no more.
All right, everybody, we're going to jump into our conversation today, and we're going to jumpstart this idea of time, the myth of time management. Let me read you this gentleman's bio before I bring him on. Jones Loflin has made it his life's work to deliver powerful ideas and practical solutions to help people make the best choices with their time. Jones' innovative solutions have attracted the attention of organizations around the world. His client list includes FedEx, Walmart, Choice Hotels, as well as the United States military and a number of international companies. He's an accomplished author, coach. His books include Always Growing, Juggling Elephants, which we're going to talk about, as well as Getting the Blue Ribbon and Getting to It. He is also the founder of Jones U. That's not Y-O-U, rather. That's Jones, the capital letter U.com, a series of online courses to help others with their life purposes. He lives in North Carolina with his amazing wife, Lisa. And according to Jones, they have two perfect daughters. I think the entire interview should be about how you raise two perfect daughters. Good morning, Jones. Thanks for being here.
Oh, what a pleasure, Will. I am just thrilled for this opportunity. I need to contribute today. I am grateful for warm lemon water, which helps with digestion, which is important as we get older. So I wanted to contribute today. So
wonderful. It's also great before you go on stage.
True. Yes, you're exactly right.
Yeah, because I actually blew my voice out one time in Minneapolis, and it was because of sinuses, really. It was not an overstraining of my voice. It was about not cutting the in my throat. So where in North Carolina do we find you, Jones?
I am in central North Carolina. The little town is called Denton, about 1,000 people. It's about midway between Raleigh and Charlotte, for those who know anything about the state. So if you look at the middle of North Carolina, I'm probably within 30 miles of that.
Is that anywhere near Dunn?
Well, Dunn is eastern North Carolina.
Okay.
And so that's in Sampson County, one of the number one agricultural counties in our state. And so that would be east of me, about 110, 115 miles.
Okay. I grew up in South Carolina, lived in Charlotte, lived in Wilmington, and we used to go to Mule Days in Dunn.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was a fun thing to do.
Well, and see, they stopped a competition you would have been great at, Will. You remember the hollering contest that was held in Midway between Sampson and Dunn, and what a national treasure that was. And they just decided it was time to put that to rest. But what a fun time.
Where I was born, and then we'll get to the real subject at hand. But people have said before, they always like these little glimpses too. They had catfish wrestling in Manning, South Carolina. Yeah. They catch these big 40 and 60-pound catfish, and guys would get into a pool with waders, and the goal was to try and catch it and pick it up. And that was catfish wrestling.
Yeah, we in North Carolina, South Carolina, sometimes we're a little bored for quality things to do. So why not go and wrestle a catfish?
Yeah. I'm reading a book on Abe Lincoln right now, and some of the stuff they used to do just to pass the time or entertain themselves back then. It's people are consistent. Let's put it that way.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great segue into our discussion. But
it really is, because I want to talk with you about this idea of time management. When I travel and speak, a lot of times I'll say, who else is going to be speaking? They'll say, well, we've got so-and-so on time management. And you've taken a somewhat counter approach to that, to say that time management isn't really possible. Can you help us understand why that's true?
Sure. I think when we say time management, Will, it's kind of like when we ask for a Kleenex instead of a tissue. A Kleenex is a brand name. Time management is kind of a brand name. It's an umbrella term for so many different things. And I think Charlie Gilkey probably articulated it best when he said, schedules can be managed, decisions can be managed, time can only be accounted for. We can only look at how we've made the choices that have got us to the outcomes we want. At any given point. So I think really, time management is a misnomer. Do I use it? Yeah, because just like a Kleenex, it's a recognized term. So I just think it's more
Do
important to look at choices.
Do you good? I agree because I think that time management has become overzealously treated in our
Mm.
society, and it is in some ways adding to the stress. It's almost like hurry up and get this done so you can get something else done, but do this first because now you know this is the most important thing. But remember, there's all this else behind you instead of breathing into your work. I mean, we all still need to have that number one priority. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely, and I think again another word we probably throw around too often is priorities. So we need to schedule our priorities, and we need to know what our priorities are. And I think it's more important, like you said, to stop and look at your day or your week and say, what are my priorities and where do they go in my calendar or in my day so that they are most likely to get accomplished versus, okay, I've got all these priorities. Yeah, I'm just gonna make a list. I'm gonna start working on the first thing that comes to mind and hope I get to them. It's futile.
Let's talk about to me, it's about values rather. I've been thinking a lot about that and reading about that over the last few years and having my day filled with the things that I value the
Yeah.
most. And we actually did a jumpstart on that and the idea of coming up with 3 to 5 things. And that's what does it enhance your value or does it take you away from your value? What do you think about this idea that phones, computers, alerts, notifications, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, just chopping the legs off under the concept of time management?
How much time do we have for this broadcast?
Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, you
Let's keep
nailed
people
it.
watch. Let's keep people watching their phones while we tell them not to watch their
Yeah,
phones.
exactly.
Shh.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just absolutely phenomenal, how it has. What is it that the average office worker focuses for about 3 minutes? And
Is that right?
oh yeah, I saw some research. I think it was done in Canada or something like that. Is that there is so much around us, and again, it comes back to that idea of choices. If we choose to put that phone close to us and have our notifications turned on, we've made the choice that we're willing to be interrupted, that we're
Mhm.
willing to stop what we're working on that's such a high priority to take care of something that's probably, as Stephen Covey would say, it's urgent and not important
Not
in
important.
that moment. So it's had a radical impact. By the way, a great book on that topic, Stolen Focus. I just finished reading it, and it's a fascinating read about what's happened to our ability to pay attention.
Stolen Focus. All right. I'm going to invite everybody to check out the book Stolen Focus. I'll type that in the comment section. We talked quite a bit here about the Netflix documentary, sort of documentary, the social dilemma.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's truly amazing. And one of my speeches too, I do is called Drop Stress and Gain Focus. And
Hmm.
the we spend 71% of our waking hours staring at some sort of screen. And when we're not, we get about 43 notifications when we're not looking at it to get us to go back and look. And it's that, to me, time management is about setting your values, your priorities, and moving forward with the things that are going to move you in that direction.
Yeah, yeah.
And the phones, the alerts, the notifications, they're all somebody else's priorities taking precedence over your own. I noticed the other night when I was in a restaurant, I walked in to order some food to go, and the person was taking my order, but they stopped taking my order when the phone rang. And the other person wanted to place an order as well. Phones, things like that tend to take us away. So I just think it's fascinating, and I'm so glad you're sharing this idea. Tell me about the juggling elephants. You say we need to be ringmasters of our own circus, and growing up with the circus as a boy. Help me understand that analogy, please.
Absolutely. Well, the idea of juggling elephants is that when you're trying to get everything done, that it's impossible. It's like juggling elephants. In fact, I ask people the question sometimes. I said, "Have you ever been to the circus and seen the juggling elephants routine?" And they'll go, "No, that's impossible." And I'm like, yeah, but you're trying to do it, because again, they're trying to look at their phone, have a conversation, do work, and nothing gets done well. And the idea of what we need to do about that is to run off and join the circus. Well, at least mentally. The idea is that we need to take more conscious control of our time choices. And that means being the ringmaster of your circus. That means looking at how you want, like you said, how do I want my day to go? What do I value? What's important to me? And lining up our acts or activities, if you will, so that at the end of the day, pardon the pun, but we give ourselves a standing ovation because we've had the right acts come into our lineup and we go, yeah, I honored my values today, or I accomplished what was important. So that's kind of the tip of the iceberg about what we mean by managing your working life like a circus.
You know, I think it's a wonderful analogy, and we just lost Bob Proctor,
Mhm.
who read Think and Grow Rich every day of his life from the time he was in his 20s. And I've been reading every day of my life
Mhm.
over the last year, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. And he makes the point that if you're super effective and super efficient and you manage your time really well, but you're doing the wrong things, every day is going to be it's going to be a failure. But if you
Mm.
don't really put all that focus on, but just do the right things, do the most important things that are in line with your values and going to take you where it is you say you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know one of our fellow speakers has a big framed $1 million bill on the wall in his
Mm.
office. And his point is, and this is his approach, is if it's not making me money, I don't want to do it. But at least he's clear
Oh yeah.
as to what
Yeah.
he's doing.
Yeah, I got it. Can I jump in there for a second, Will? Because
Please.
something
Yeah.
that you just said, when we talk about this, when I'm in one of my training programs, or even in a keynote, if I'm engaging with the audience, I'll ask someone, "What's the purpose of the circus?" And when I ask them, their first response is entertainment. And I'll go, okay, good. If the purpose of the circus is entertainment, and I line up my acts based on how entertaining they will my circus be successful? And they'll look at me and go, well, maybe. I'm like, well, no, you just told me the purpose of the circus is entertainment. If they line up the acts based on how entertaining they will be, won't it be successful? And they go through all these gyrations, and other people in the crowd will start chipping in. Well, it depends on how well the performers perform. It depends on if the animals are ready. It depends on the cadence of the acts. And I'll say, you're all wrong. And they'll look at me funny, and I'll go, did P.T. Barnum go, oh, I am so excited about creating a circus because I want to provide entertainment to people? No. P.T. Barnum said, I want to make money. What's the
Yeah.
purpose of the circus? To make money. And it aligns its acts so that it can make money. Now, how does the circus make money? By being entertaining. Now, I know that was a long explanation, but I think too often most of us don't stop, as you said, and go, what's my purpose? What's the outcome I'm looking for today? What do I want to have that I don't have right now? And then starting to line up our day in that way. So at the end of the day, we go, yeah, I was consistent versus just throwing a lot of things in there and hoping at the end of the day, we go, did I do anything of value today?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because I believe too, Jones, that we have, the two sides, the
Hmm.
highest self,
Hmm.
the ego, and the ego is always trying to scuttle whatever is our best day. So if I say to
Mm.
myself, my best day is, doing my meditation before I get out of bed, then getting up and taking my dog for a walk, having a coffee,
Hmm.
journaling, et cetera, et cetera. My ego says, no, 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 go fold the laundry. You'll get to the meditation later. Wait, hey, Will, you forgot to take that letter down and mail it. There's some recycling that needs to go down. And I have a good friend who's very successful and very wealthy. And we talk about that he still struggles with this. So I think we have this idea that we're going to time manage our way out of emotional and mental conflict, and we're not.
Mm.
Would you agree?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I love that idea. It's we get so overloaded with these other things with our ego saying, "Hey, like I say, you're not doing enough here, or you're doing too much here, or wow, what's going on over there that you ought to be paying attention to." That we really do have to really harness that and be more intentional to do those things that are going to fulfill us and are important for us. I love what you talked about there a moment ago. How you're starting your day. You're starting your day focused on you. and what's important to you. You're getting in
Mm.
touch with yourself. How many people, and you probably know this better than I, how many people wake up and the first thing they do is they grab their phone. They
Yes.
immediately
Yes.
are building their day based on someone else's expectations
Not
instead of
only
their
on
own.
somebody else's expectations, but someone else's agenda.
Oh,
Because as
yeah,
it
yeah.
says in the social dilemma, the idea is in my work about complaining, I call it enrage and engage. The more
Mm.
you can piss somebody off, the longer you can keep them. So slowly they start. And so you're getting up first thing in the morning, upset.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
instead of setting your emotional, my mom used to call it setting your compass right. You have to get up
Mm.
in the morning and set your compass. And that's where I learned it. My mom would get up, in her case, it was a journal and a Bible and a cigarette and
Yeah,
everything. But
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much to that. I mean, I love when I'm working with people and, they feel like their life is out of control or they just aren't getting the right things done and, whatever the case might be. And I say, would you be willing to take 3 minutes in the morning with your favorite beverage and just go stand in front of a window? And they're like, "It might be dark." I said, "I don't care." The psychology of looking out a window causes you to think a little bit bigger. I said, "Would you be willing to try that for a week?" And they'll go, "Okay, I think I can do that." Sometimes I have to say, "Would you give it a minute?" Because like, I don't have time for that. But it's amazing how when I check back in with them after a week, they go, when I took a minute just to stop and go, what's important to me today? It makes such a difference versus responding to other people's agendas and expectations and priorities and what upset them, that type of thing.
Tim Ferriss writes about the concept, and I forget the name of it, but in Japan, people literally work themselves to death. They
Oh,
overwhelm themselves and work
yeah.
themselves to death. I feel like we are a somewhat conflicted and lighter version of that, but people
Mhm.
are working themselves into not working so much, but stressing, straining, and overwhelming. And you talk a lot about that. How do we get past this feeling? For example, I worked on my finances and taxes for a week, got everything sent off yesterday, and I was like, oh, thank goodness. It took me a lot longer than I thought, but everything is perfect. And then I immediately went, there's this other thing that's waiting, and behind that is this
Mhm.
other thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you in your notes to me, you said, how about if I pretend I'm one of those overwhelmed people? So let's pretend I'm one of those overwhelmed people and help
Yeah.
me and everybody, would you please?
Yeah. Oh, and myself. Please understand, Will. One of the things I love about this, I'm my own lifelong project in these things, and when I
Mm.
get them figured out, I'll be dead, and it won't matter. you know. So I love to work with someone who says, oh, I just feel like I'm overloaded, or I'm overwhelmed. I'm going, with what? And they'll go, everything. I'm like, that's not helpful. And so I'll say, where do you feel a sense of overwhelm? And maybe it is too much to do, or maybe that, if they're a parent, they're not doing enough to be a great parent or a boss or whatever role it is that they're thinking about. And I always like to have them say, well, let's stop and let's see how you are doing. On a scale of 1 to 10, as a manager right now, how would you say you're doing? And they can normally give me a number, and it's normally they go, well, it's a little higher than I thought. I'm like, why do you think that is? Like, well, I didn't really stop to think about it. One of the key things I think we can do when we're having this sense of overwhelm is we got to stop. You've heard it said before, we can't make a course correction when we're moving 90 miles an hour down the road. We can
Right.
only make a course correction when we stop and go, how are things going? And of course, for me in Juggling Elephants, how are things going in those three rings of work, self, and relationship, so that you can really find where those pain points are and then say, okay, what's a small step forward that you could take to improve that situation? Because so many people feel helpless. They feel like they've got to make giant strides for improvement, when the reality is the only way any of us get better is that incremental improvement, the slight edge, if you will, the tiny habits that BJ Fogg would talk about. That's how we improve. And so if you can get people to stop long enough to go, yeah, I could take that step. Yeah, I could do that, and enable them and give them the confidence, then I find so many people can make improvements.
Yeah, I love that. It's a lack of specificity, I think, a lot of times. I've suggested here before that people stab their problems with a pen. Don't if
Mm,
if there are amorphous things going around floating between your ears, it seems like way too much and you'll never. But if you sit down with it and actually think it out,
Yes.
There is something you, like you said, you can either you can do something about it, or you can begin to say, well, I can't do anything about this. I'll turn it over to God, the universe, whatever, just see how it works out, because it's kind of amazing how things do work out. Tell
And
me, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I was going to say that's where the idea of the ringmaster comes in. Is that, I'll ask people sometimes, is the ringmaster in control of everything in a circus? And they'll go, well, no, they're not in control of the animal trainer. They're not in control of the people who serve the popcorn or the peanuts, whatever. I say, well, what is the ringmaster in control of? And they'll go through a couple things, and then I'll turn to them and I say, what are you in control of? What do you have the opportunity to change or to influence? When we feel like we aren't the ringmaster, we're like, well, I'm not in control of everything. None of us are. What are you in control of? And what percent of your day do you have some control of? You mentioned a moment ago about people looking at their calendars and just being overwhelmed. Is that, ask, oh, do you have 30 minutes available today that's discretionary to you? And they're like, well, yeah, I could probably find 30 minutes. Okay, great. How could you best spend that 30 minutes to begin to address this sense of overwhelm or being overloaded? But it is stopping. I'm glad you reminded me of that. It is that key point of what are you in control of? What are you not in control of?
Yeah. And the idea of stopping, I think that is because we get on this loop. It's like a hamster wheel. And it's like, if I only run fast enough, I'm going to get to the end. But we're in a hamster loop. There's always going to be stuff. And so the best thing we can do, that's why for me, meditation twice a day. And I've started over the last several months, I do yoga every day, but I do it at the end of the day, because just like we were talking at the beginning, I'd say, well, I'm going to do yoga. They've got classes at 8:30, 11, 3, 5, 7. I'll decide at some point, and now I go first thing in the morning, I schedule that class and it's paid for. So I guess I'm going. And that putting that stop in my day, I find, because otherwise I would sit right here and I would write, I would create, I would plan, I would strategize until it's 8 o'clock at night. And then I'd go, the couch is calling.
Oh, it's so true. We just have to. And the circus actually does that in something called an intermission. If you think about, how most of us work, a ringmaster will look at, why are you doing that? Why do you keep bringing acts into the lineup until you hit a wall, until you've been looking at the computer screen for 15 minutes and you don't remember anything that you've read? Why'd you snap at that family member? Well, you did that because you didn't take an intermission. You didn't stop to let the performers take a break, let the ringmaster take a break, to give the audience a break, to say, how are things going? Where am I feeling depleted? What do I need? How do I need to replenish or renew myself so that I can be better in my next half? I mean, it's a model. Why do they have halftime at sporting events? So that the players can be more effective, so the coach can guide and change, action so they can possibly win the game. We just don't do that so often.
Wow, what a wonderful metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah, Broadway's the same thing. I was just thinking, I couldn't imagine sitting through Wicked or, Evan Hansen, and they're not letting me go out for 15 minutes to have a glass of wine and just go, is, but we don't do that in our own lives. And it's like, it's hard to get ourselves to start working. And then a lot of times we don't want to stop.
Yeah.
Or the other thing is, I think, Jones, is that we say, well, I'm taking a break. What are you doing? Oh, I'm checking my dating apps. I'm reading Reddit. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. But you're still engaged. You're still, and by engaged, I think as much as anything, you have some sort of an emotional engagement in it.
Exactly. Oh, there's a great TEDx talk, Dr. I think Smith is last name, on the 7 types of rest. Fascinating how, we normally think of physical, mental, and emotional, but there are 4 other kinds of rest. One of them is sensory rest. You can imagine which one that is. That's that device. But I talk sometimes with clients about, okay, how are you doing on these 7 types of rest, not just the big 3 or the big 2. And it's amazing how they'll go, I hadn't even thought about how draining that had been to me, because I won't detach. Instead, when I say I'm taking a break at lunch, I'm still on a device instead of getting up and walking outside, or at least stretching or doing something to make a clean break so that your mind has a chance to reset and renew. So again, you can be more effective when you go back to that next task.
Hence the benefit of having a dog.
Exactly.
Because he has a schedule and he knows it. He knows that he goes out at 7, he goes out again at 11, he goes out at 4, and he goes out at 9. And he will come and sit and stare at me like this, and then he'll jump in my lap And he actually will get between me and a phone. I'll be holding him and he'll
I
kind of
love
put
it.
his face in between me, which is really great. But not everybody has that. So
True.
I mentioned the other day, and I want to throw this out too as an option. K-Safe is something that I'm playing with. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's a
Isn't
safe
that
where
the
you put,
plastic safe that you put your
yeah,
phone in, and you close it, and it won't let you have it for a certain amount of time?
yeah. You set a little dial on the top and you lock it, and you can do your phone, credit cards. People do anything. Keys to their car, I guess. I don't know. So, well,
No,
I
I
love
think
this.
that's a great idea. Yeah.
I love this. You know, to me, the takeaway here is that there are three rings in our lives: uh, career, relationships, and health. Is that
Yep.
right?
And well, we call it self. Some
Self.
people call it person. People are be a person, people, and performance. Because it's works, relationships, and self. But however you look at it, yeah,
So the first concept is to get the idea that we are the ringmaster in our life, that the
yeah.
stuff that to own what's going on. I find that when
Mhm.
we give people advice like this, Jones, people say, you know what, I'm going to have to start doing that. And I think what they've got to do is own they're already being the ringmaster in their life. And then, as you
Yes.
say,
Yes.
look at the three rings and look for incremental growth. So
Mhm.
often people want to go to a Tony Robbins seminar or something and change over the weekend, or,
Yeah.
and it can happen, but I think that that's a little overwhelming for a lot of people.
Oh, it's trying to get from step 1 to step 15.
Right.
One of my favorite quotes, in fact, I drop it in my bio when I'm speaking at an event, by the icon of speaking, Zig Ziglar, who said, "Go as far as you can see by faith, and when you get there, you can see farther." It's what's the
Mm,
next step look like? Most of us,
mhm.
if we stop long enough and have somebody work with us to say, "What's the next step you could take?" Most anybody can say, "Well, I just need to talk to my boss." Or I just need to carve out, 5 minutes for me in the evenings. They know what they want to do. They've just not stopped on their own or had anybody say, "Hey, I'm concerned about you. How can we, get you to a better place?" And then helping figure out what that next step is.
And that's the purpose of a coach, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
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 Do you have an email address that you would like to share? Oh, wait a minute. Here it is. I already put this in the synopsis, but I want to
Mhm.
make sure everybody gets it. And I looked this up. This is notes from, whoops. Oh, I don't have a producer doing all this for me. There we go. Jones has something for you. If you will go to this bit.ly URL, this is called Notes, a note from Jones Loflin. And anything you want to say about this real quick?
Yeah, sure. It's 8 strategies to be a better ringmaster of your circus. It's kind of a summation of what we talked about today about how do I take that next step? What are some very simple things I can do, or you can do, all of us can do, to begin to take more control of the choices we're making with our time? And so it's just a collection of some of my favorite strategies, especially during this season of disruption and uncertainty,
Yes.
on how to make the choices that help you to thrive professionally and personally. So I'd love for your viewers to check that out.
Check it out. And once you do, make a comment in the comments section. Tell us what you think.
Absolutely.
Jones, this has been awesome. I always like to conclude this with the concept that people think, oh, you're a professional speaker. You must know Jones Loflin. And I'm like, no, because if they hired Jones, they wouldn't hire me and we wouldn't be there at the same time. So where are you headed next? Do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be in Indianapolis next week working with a group of school business officials. Also excited. I thought I was going to head to Dubai. I got the email and I thought, oh, it's great. I'm going to Dubai. But then they said virtual training for Dubai.
Oh,
But that's okay. That's okay. No complaints on.
no, I get
I,
it.
I,
We can be disappointed. I got an
oh, it's true.
invitation to go to
True.
Dubai too. And they
Yeah.
said, we're only inviting X certain number of speakers. And I got back to them and they said had met their quota or whatever. So that
Oh,
was all
yeah.
right. I'll go to Dubai.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
So I'm
One last
excited about that one.
cool. By the way, I want to point something out to all of you. Speaking of speaking, I'll be, in case you're curious, I'm in South Carolina next week in Myrtle Beach.
Wonderful.
But if you want to go back and watch Jones, he is a master presenter. I can tell you that simply by the way his body is and his gesticulation. Note he doesn't have to put his hands in the frame. He does that because that's a master of gesticulation and he's really
Thank you.
good at it. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
congratulations. Thank you for being here. And everybody check out, Jones has written several books, but I think Juggling Elephants sounds like a lot of fun. And that's available Amazon?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you purchase books, available both hardcover, audiobook, as well as Kindle or other ebook formats.
Sounds wonderful. Well, everybody be sure and download the synopsis of today's presentation. And Jones, thank you very much. Enjoy Indianapolis. It's one of my favorite cities. If you get a chance, go to Rhythm, which is the drumming museum.
That is there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's so cool. Shows you how drums are made. It's got
Aw.
drums from famous drummers, which, yeah. And then there are studios you can go in and play all the various drums. So,
Oh, yeah. Then I could come home and tell my wife, hey, honey, guess what I want to buy?
yeah, exactly.
That might not go so well, but
Good luck with that.
oh, well, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show today. Wow, what an honor. I mean, I so love the movement that you have created about no complaining. In fact, I was talking to my family about it last night, and they were talking about what a powerful idea it is if we, own our situations and then figure out how to improve. So thank you for the work that you're doing all around the world, not just here in the States.
My honor. It's a joy, and you as well. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. I will be on the road Monday, so we'll have a JumpStart Classic. But I'll see you again real soon. Everybody, enjoy the weekend. Bye-bye.
No more complaining people. Their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more complaining people. Their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more.